All right, in today's lesson, we are going to review equations, and we're only doing the 7th grade standards of equations, so you remember or may remember doing a lot more with equations than what we're going to review today. That's the 8th grade part of the standards that y'all have to know for Algebra 1, but for SC Ready, you only have to know how to do the 7th grade standards, so that's what we're going to review today. So at the top of the page of notes, I want you to write equations review, and also in your table of contents, equations review. Now first, let's look at the standards. You don't need to copy these. I just want you to know what you're going to be expected to know how to do. So our standards say, apply the concepts of linear equations, we'll get to inequalities tomorrow, in one variable to real-world and mathematical situations. So you may have some real-world situations that you have to solve equations for. Now it says, write and fluently solve linear equations in the form of ax plus b equals c. That's a two-step equation. And a times x plus b in parentheses equals c. This is where we would distribute. Okay, so we see two-step equations. We see distributing, where a, b, and c are rational numbers. We see write and solve multi-step linear equations that include the use of the distributive property and combining like terms, but notice it says exclude equations that contain variables on both sides. So on SC Ready, they shouldn't be giving you any equations where you have variables on both sides. You know how to do that, but you won't have to do it on SC Ready. So we're focusing on making sure we know how to distribute and how to combine like terms. We'll get to the rest of these standards with... No, there's one more. This is inequalities, but look at D. Identify and justify the steps for solving multi-step linear equations. That means knowing those properties, the properties that we learned when we did our unit on solving equations. So we'll talk through those as we're solving some examples. All right, first, a review. You don't need to copy this. Just remember, how do I solve simple equations? To solve simple equations, we use our inverse operations. Addition and subtraction are inverse operations. Multiplication and division are inverse operations. So if I was going to solve this equation, 3 plus x equals 11, I would subtract 3 on both sides to get rid of this 3 right here. Okay, we'd get x equals 8. All right, remember our steps for solving two-step equations. First, we undo the addition or subtraction. Second, we undo the multiplication or division, and then we can check our answer by plugging whatever we get for x back into the equation and making sure both sides of the equation are equal. So why don't you hit pause on the video, and I want you to practice solving this two-step equation. Do it in your notes. When you're ready to check your answer, hit play. All right, so when you solved your equation, you should have gotten x equals negative 8. Now, before we move on, I want us to talk through the justification for what we just did, because it's been a while since we've talked about this. The first step that you did was add 8 on both sides. What property is that? Think for a second. What property is that? That is the multiplication property of equality. Okay? Next, we would have said negative 8 plus 8 equals 0. What is that? That is the additive inverse property. I didn't actually show it in my work. That's the additive inverse property. Then we would have gotten rid of the 0 using the additive identity property. Okay, so just a refresher on this property. We first used, oh my gosh, I said multiplication property of equality. Hello. Addition property of equality. Clearly I'm still on spring break in my mind. Addition property of equality. Then we use the additive inverse property and then the additive identity property. Okay? Second step, we use the multiplication property of equality. We know that dividing by 3 is the same as multiplying by 1/3. So that's what we did there. And then we use the multiplicative inverse property to cancel, and we ended up with x equals negative 8. So that's kind of your refresher on your properties. Okay, let's try one with a fraction because that always freaks y'all out. Okay, let's look at number 2. Look at number 2. Try that one on your own, just number 2. Try that one on your own. Hit pause, work it out. When you're ready to check your answer, hit play. All right, I'm going to talk through this one with you. The first thing we want to get rid of is this -6. We're going to add 6 on both sides. Those cancel. We bring down x over 4. -5 plus 6 is 1. Okay, here we see a fraction. Do we panic? No. Remember that when we have x over 4, that means x divided by 4. So what's the inverse operation of dividing by 4? It would be multiplying by 4. So I use that multiplication property of equality, multiply by 4 on both sides, I get x equals 4. Okay? Now that we're not scared of the fractions anymore, I want you to try number 1 on your own. Try number 1 on your own. Press pause when you're ready to check your answer, hit play. Don't know why that just went away. There we go. Okay, so what we get is 16. We would subtract 2 on both sides, and then we would multiply by 4 on both sides, and 4 times 4 would give us 16. Okay, so that's our little review of two-step equations. Now what happens when I need to distribute? Let's do this one together. Do it in your notes with me. We have to multiply everything inside the parentheses times this -5 that is outside the parentheses. I don't know why my pen is not writing. Come on. So we're going to distribute the -5. Multiplying. Oh my goodness. Hello. One more time. So pretend you can see an arrow. There we go. Is it finally writing? Still not writing. Technology is so fun. Guys. Well, there's the arrow. Okay, one last time. So we're distributing the -5. We multiply that times 6, and that would be -30. And then we multiply -5 times 6. That would be -30 equals 30. From there, it's a two-step equation, so we add 30 on both sides. Okay, bring down the -30 in. Cancel 60. Then we would divide by -30. Divide by -30, and those cancel. We get n equals -2. Remember, when the signs are different, the answer is positive. Okay, so that's distributing. See what I got in my drawers. It's a quote from Beauty and the Beast. Okay. It's time for this to be over. All right, so now you should be ready to work on your digits assignment. Remember, we're only going to be focusing on equations on SC Ready with two-step. It might be multi-step where you have to combine like terms or distribute. Let me know if you need help.